joined here today with Elly Hewitt, MD of Alt Shift, and we want to have a chat about career and motherhood. So welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, you're welcome. So you've got an incredible reputation in the agency world and had 2 children, been on the Gruen transfer. But, I'd love to hear, let's start with your career background and history and kind of where you've gotten to today.
Yeah, sure. I guess ironically, I didn't study PR, yet I'm here owning a public relations agency. But I started off very much in sport and the media, but more from a broadcast operations perspective in some pretty major events with Australian Open and Com Games and Olympics and the like. And then following a stint with the 2006 Com Games, I landed in agency world at Haystack, where I really discovered, I guess, the creativity and fun and fast-paced atmosphere that our agency provides. I then had a brief stint at NAB, hence where we met, in the sponsorship division, and got tapped on the shoulder to be the managing director of Mango Communications, which is part of DDB Group, an advertising agency, a global ad agency, where I really sort of, I guess, honed my skills, made all my mistakes as an agency leader, and I was there for 5.5 years before starting Alt Shift.
Yeah, okay. So you've got 2 little girls.
Yep.
We're quite similar actually in terms of our girls.
Similar ages.
So talk us through what that journey's been like for you in terms of having your children and balancing your career and the decisions you've had to make.
Yeah, it was interesting, and I talked to a lot of other working mums, and I certainly, when I went on maternity leave with my first, you just don't know what to expect. And I had an amazing MD at DDB Group at the time, and he was like, take the full year and all of that sort of stuff. And I was very grateful, and I don't know why I was grateful, because it's actually, an employee benefit.
Yeah, totally.
So, but you have this kind of sort of indebted feeling towards your organisation. Then I obviously had almost 12 months off with Chloe, had a beautiful time off, and I really didn't know what would happen to me. Like, as a working professional, I am an ambitious woman, and I've always loved what I did, but I just didn't know how motherhood would change me, and thought, like, will I become a Pilates instructor? I don't know, like have one of those real sort of crises of what I wanted to do. And I actually found, I think having a daughter influenced this as well, but I found myself even more ambitious for what I wanted. It was also the first time in my entire career that I paused and actually thought about my role, what I'd achieved, what I wanted to achieve in the future. It was the first time I benchmarked my salary, which was a really eye-opening.
Wow.
Yeah, I just felt so grateful to be in a job that I loved,
Yeah.
and that was eye-opening.
Yeah.
And then, I returned to work. I actually set it up. It was quite an interesting process we went through. Finding an MD to run an agency for a short amount of time is really, really hard, but I had a phenomenal senior team that we trained up throughout my pregnancy to run the agency in my absence, and they'll say it was the best and worst of years they've had. Like, they learned a lot of amazing lessons.
Yeah.
But they had really good growth in my absence, and on my first day back I was told by my CFO that interesting as the highest salary earner, that I wasn't really needed. And it was a real...
So your first day back.
Yeah, we were going through the P&L, and I was stoked. I was going through this, oh my God moment. Like, my team has nailed it. I'm so proud of them. And, I set them up for that. I trained them along the years, and I was so thrilled. And it was a real, even if it was meant in any kind of humour, that's generous, to be honest, but it was a real slap in the face.
But also your first day back, when your confidence is already,
you cry the whole way from the daycare centre, and you're like,
the emotions.
I forgot what working L's like. And it was a really, I just hit a wall. It was 10 a.m. on my first day. And that probably set the tone for my return in many respects. It put a lot of fire in my belly, in that I was like, I'll show you.
Yeah.
And I did. But then upon reflection, I didn't need to show them. I'd shown them for the last 5.5 years, or 4.5 years, and we'd had phenomenal success. But then again, like when you hear something like that, I was like, and we had phenomenal growth in my final year, but it was almost like I was setting it up to leave because...
Did you feel like there was more pressure on you though now that you've returned and you're a mum, and you had to prove yourself, even though like juggling your hours? Or...
Yeah, and it was like my amazing CEO, he moved to Sydney, so I lost that direct contact with probably one of my greatest mentors. So him losing the visibility on the office had a big impact. And then I was also offered a promotion without a pay rise in my first quarter. Oh no, it was probably within the first 6 months I was offered that.
Did you take it?
No, shit no. What, like, I thought I had a predominantly female workforce, and I thought, what message does it send to me subconsciously? I've got daughters, like I would never want them to accept a promotion without a pay rise. They were wanting to use the reputation of our business unit and my reputation to really, I guess, catapult the broader agency, and I had a real issue with that.
Yeah.
So
that is, I think it's phenomenal that you did that, because I think a lot of women, like we find when we talk to women, we say yes so much because our confidence is low and we think, you just have to accept it.
Yeah.
It's like when you ask for flexibility and it's declined. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
As opposed to standing up for what you believe in.
Yeah, I was really conscious that year and a bit, I think I was back. I was back pretty much 12 months, and because I was hyper aware that I was leading a predominantly female workforce, and I was the only working mother example to them within the agency setting.
Right.
So I really did want to lead by example, and this boss I had in Sydney, I remember him saying, don't you shirk away, don't you, creep out and leave, you say goodbye and you shout it from the rooftops, because you have roles and responsibilities as a mum and as an MD. And so I always made sure my departure from the office was very public.
Yeah. So talk to us about, when you say you led by example, what are some of the things that you did?
Well,
to
it's
demonstrate,
actually a real passion point, and I've been able to implement it better here. But we introduced flexible working hours for everyone, because I think part of the eye roll sort of nature that you get as a working mum leaving early, and I think back to when I was younger and think, I'm sure I did that with mums darting out to make the daycare pick up, and you're so naive.
I remember in an office, it used to be the norm for when women, some older mums would leave, and people would say, oh, good hours.
Yeah.
It's just terrible.
I don't know what's ahead of them.
I know. Right, so you introduced flexible working.
Because I just felt that, while my children are the most important things to me, some people have dogs that they need to get out and walk.
Absolutely.
Some people, have exercise, and I just felt that agency in general is not it's not well known for flexibility, and so we introduced sort of a swinging time and finish. You always do your hours in agency, so it was basically a measure of trust, and we're grown-ups and you're measured on outcomes, not time at your desk. And I kind of had a dual speed economy. I had one team that would change their desks by nature of a number of people in the team, and then I had another team that they totally embraced it. And by starting Alt Shift and having it in everything from our induction manual to everyone at a senior leadership perspective, we do flexible hours. So it's ingrained in our whole agency now. So I think, why should flexibility only be for parents? And I think by affording it to everyone, it removes the stigma of good hours.
Definitely.
In the workplace, for sure.
So what time? So okay, so let's just so you returned after Chloe, your first child.
Yeah.
You were there for about 12 months. And then...
Yeah. Well, I think I resigned in the September. I had a 3-month, notice period. And I resigned in the September. At the moment, I was 12 weeks. I resigned.
Pregnant, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just wanted to work out what I wanted to do with my life. I didn't have the mental capacity to think that through clearly, and I wanted to spend some really good quality time with Chloe before I had Pip, which was great. It was just some really beautiful one-on-one time. But then on the days, I kept her in daycare for the 2 days, and on those days I just caught up with a whole bunch of mentors and people that have been in my life, and that brought me back to the founders of Haystack, Anton and Rich, and everything just came together. Yeah.
So talk to us about when you said you caught up with your mentors and sponsors, because we talk a lot at Circlin about the importance of staying connected and having your network.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that your network has to be huge. It could
No.
be one or two.
Yeah.
But how important a role has that been for you?
Oh, huge. And I think it's funny, I've got quite a lot of male mentors, but certainly some good, strong female mentors as well. But I just think it helps in just getting their perspective, because sometimes you can be just knee deep in it. And while I was going through the tough time in my year, when I returned, I remember it might have been Anton, who is my one of the business partners. He was like, you can't unscramble an egg. And it was so true. It was just so scrambled. There was no way I could see myself. Because when you're choosing to spend time away from your family as a mum, there's a certain level of guilt attached to that anyway. So you've really got to love what you do and feel passionate about what you do, and for it to count. And for whatever reason, people might have financial reasons or career reasons, I still think you need to find that purpose of why you're being away from your kids. So that purpose was lost on me at DDB.
Do you suffer mother's guilt now?
Oh yeah, definitely. But
How do
I
you
think
deal with it?
well, I kind of strip it back. I'm not built to be a full-time stay-at-home mum. I found at the end of both of my mat leaves that an idle mind was a devil's playground for me. I'm better with a bit of stimulation, and hats off to stay-at-home mums, because I think it's a way harder job. Coming into work is easy, in my opinion.
Definitely.
So, yeah, I sort of think mentally and how I'd be as a mum would be very, like I feel like I'm a better mum by being passionate about what I do, and they see that passion, and
What are your tips for women going off on parental leave? I guess reflecting, because as you said, you don't know what you don't know, and hindsight's always a great thing. Is there anything you would change?
Yeah, definitely. Staying connected. I don't think organisations do that well, and certainly I stayed connected socially to my team. I had a really strong team and great team, dear friends. So I felt I had a pulse of the agency, but at a more professional level, I did not hear from anyone really, like from HR, from anyone.
Do you use LinkedIn?
Yes. Yep.
And do you think that's a good channel for women to potentially keep their
Definitely.
toes in the water?
Definitely. I love LinkedIn. And then I had a review, and it was off the back of the most successful year we'd ever had. And because I was entering into mat leave, I didn't negotiate a pay rise. And I just think, you're an idiot. Like, my mat leave payments could have been significantly higher, but I deserved that pay rise, and they negotiated it that I'd get it when I got back. We'd discussed it, but it wasn't before I left. So I really regretted that. And I think, the benchmarking of salary, it actually bit them in the arse a bit, because then I had heaps of time, and I was like, oh no, that's not what you're paying me when you get back. You're paying me this. Because I actually understood my true worth. Because I felt indebted. I don't know, I felt indebted, and I felt really grateful for just being at a place I loved.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head earlier when you said that, when you go through it for the first time, you almost feel like you say yes to everything, and that you can't stand up for yourself.
No.
But it's a right. Like, you should be able to demand that pay rise. Or I know a lot of women go off and don't even have that performance review.
No.
And then you've forgotten about it. It's out of sight, out of mind.
Yeah.
And how do you juggle, motherhood and career? Do you have any tips, or how do you make your week's work practically?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think it's an ever-evolving thing. Like, my husband and I often talk about what we can put in place to make life work a bit more. I'm 4 days a week. So I have the Wednesday off. I used to have the Friday off, but I love Wednesdays off. It's a real shift. I've loved it. So we have a nanny. We do daycare Monday, Tuesday, and a nanny Thursday, Friday. And she's phenomenal. She's become part of the family. but we were really struggling on the Monday, Tuesday, the daycare pickup, the getting into the kitchen, the doing the meals and all of that. And we ended up getting some extra help from 4 till 6 of someone coming to our house. She's an old grandma. She was a friend's nanny and they moved. I was like, thank you. And she comes to our house. She'll cook a big bolognese, another dish for the freezer, and she'll start feeding the kids. Like, she'll get them from daycare, so we do drop off, but our daycare's literally 50 metres from our house. She'll pick them up and start that process. So when I get home, I'm straight in the tracky dacks and then I slot in. But it was becoming such a pain point for me, and I tried doing the whole Sunday afternoon cooking, but it just broke me because I didn't want to spend Sunday afternoon in my kitchen. I wanted to spend Sunday afternoon with the kids. So it was just, I think you need to work out what you're willing to let go of, and I've understood that I can't be all things or all types of mum, and so I had to relinquish, and I really fought it for a long time, the cooking part, and just getting a little bit of extra help. We're in a position to be able to do that, but you know, we did, when Chloe was born, we had 2 grandparents helping out for those other 2 days, and that's what I had. I'd come home to every 80s meal you've ever had from my mum. It was awesome.
Love it.
Yeah, curried snags, you know, the whole shebang. But then my siblings really disappointingly had they've had kids, it's their turn. So, and Dan's mum moved up to Queensland, so we just had to put some additional things in place. Because I'm like, why is this so hard? I don't remember it being this hard. And then I was like, we had grandparents.
You've got to do whatever to make it work, and if it means outsourcing, just to get through those early years when the kids are young.
And it has made our house a lot calmer on the Monday, Tuesday. So rather than me with a toddler at my leg panicking, trying to get food in their mouths, and you know, and sometimes after daycare, you know what it's like. They get a full 3-course hot meal. Sometimes they just want, if I have lunch out for work, I'll just want Weet-Bix for dinner.
We love cereal, you know, we're all for it.
Yeah.
And so lastly, how do you look after yourself? How do you find me time?
Yeah, that was it. I remember one of my really senior clients at Disney, when I returned from Mango, she said, how are you going? And I was like, someone hadn't asked me that, you know, for a few months. And I said, I feel like I'm being a good mum. I feel like I'm being a good wife. I feel like I'm being a good MD, but I don't think I'm being very good to myself. And that's the thing I'm struggling with the most. And she said to me, the sooner that 5:30 a.m. is your friend, the better. And I just looked at her like she had 2 heads. I was like, never in my life will 5:30 be my friend. And I resisted it, and then after PIP, I discovered exercise at 6 a.m. and just having that full hour, and I live near the beach, so just being on the water, there's a lot of mums, like just group exercise. Group exercise, something smashed. On the beach, often I get home and my whole house is still asleep. And I've just had this perfect hour. I stopped by the coffee shop on the way home, and I'm just me. I'm doing something positive for my health, but mainly my mind, more than anything.
Yeah, you've got to find that time.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
My
It's
pleasure.
been a great chat. We've loved hearing your tips and your journey, and you're doing an incredible job, and you should be really proud. We're sitting here in, you know, what you have built, your agency.
Yeah, it's fun.
And, you know, to be now at 24 staff and have the reputation you do, but also juggle, you know, 2 young kids. It's really hard, and I think the more we can help other women, and I'm sure today you've inspired many. So thanks.
Thank you. Thanks, Joe.